What is up, everyone? I am the Comic Outlaw, coming to you from parts unknown. And on Twitter, I did this little poll. A few people answered, and I had a tie. I released the Justice one about a week ago, top 20 Justice League. So now I'm holding in the other end. Since I don't like a tie, I decided to do both. Because let it be said, the Comic Outlaw will not go to great lengths to keep his very few viewers glued with ooey bluey to the screen, if you know what I mean. So let's talk about these horror movies that are a little bit mean and sometimes slightly obscene. But this is the 90s, so it's sort of clean. Now I'm going to say the 90s were a weird time for horror, and I actually came up in this, and the horror movies kind of, I don't think they knew what exactly they wanted to be yet. And like the resurgence of movies like Scream, and like there was movies that laid the foundation for other movies, other like horror dramas, horror comedies. You know, it kind of laid the foundation for that. But these are my personal ones that I've watched over the years. And yes, it's a poll, and opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one, and they all talk shit. So my show. So I'm going to start with my top 20. And number 20, ironically enough, is Halloween H2O. Came out around 1998. It had good points to it. It had Jamie Lee Curtis in it. It was supposed to be 20 years later. It did what it was supposed to do, but the ending was such a suck-ass ending. It like they left it open for a sequel. And then like a lot of it dragged a little bit. I felt like its impact was lessened by the other movies in the franchise, you know, as it went on. Especially the sequel that came right afterwards. It was kind of like a slap in the face to the quality of this movie. So it gets taken down a peg. Plus, Michael Myers over the years is kind of really degraded. I mean, I haven't seen the new Halloween movie, but I've heard a lot of mixed things about it. It's good, bad, you know. I've seen the Rob Zombie one. Like I said, Michael Myers has been through a lot of changes, sort of like Leatherface. If you've seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, probably Leatherface has been the one that's restarted more than most. But anyways, moving on. Number 19, Jason Goes to Hell. That's right, I said it. Jason Goes to Hell. And the reason I put this on, and everyone's going to hate it, and everyone hates on this movie, everyone talks a lot of shit about this movie, but I think they given the director the power that he wanted, and had the producer not been such a ball-crushing asshole, I think the movie would have had potential to do a lot more. And yes, they were explaining a lot of storyline in this, but god damn, it's a Jason movie. I mean, there was really no storyline explained. It was nice to have some exposition. For once. You know, the bounty hunter was one of the coolest guys in the thing. I thought it was interesting that it was Jason's beating heart. You know, it was different, unique, and it still kept with the story. And plus, it opened up the Necronomicon. And if anyone who's ever seen the Evil Dead movies knows that Freddy's glove was hanging in, I think, part 1 or 2. Freddy's gloves were hanging, so it's a connection to all the movies, like the Chucky movie connects them. And I love how these horror movies are connected. And if it wasn't for that movie, I wouldn't have been able to do that wonderful review that you should look up, Freddy versus Ash versus Jason, because a lot of the foundation was laid right here in that damn movie. So, And I don't know. I like I said, Jason's all right. A little bit predictable for a slasher. I think he's more inventive than Myers. That's why he's up higher. And I thought the storyline was good. I mean, we went right back to the slash and dash Jason. I mean, and this wasn't the suckiest movie. I think the suckiest movie is when the complete fake out movie where it wasn't even Jason as the killer. I mean, that was freaking horrible. I mean, Manhattan. I don't know. People give this movie a lot of flack, but I think given the opportunity and pressed with the real vision, and plus I heard the original ending, they couldn't get the rights for this, it was supposed to be like a big mix, you know, like Freddy pulling him down to hell on this big old story, but you know, you have to kind of just look it up for yourself and read, but it sounded really cool. Now I'm going to go with the Stephen King movie. And I read the book, and it kind of stays true to the book, but it's Stephen King. It's thinner. I thought it was an interesting movie. I put it up higher because it's one of those movies that I've come to watch over and over again when they have the Halloween specials on TV. And I think it's one of Stephen King's better movies, as far as like coming out in the 90s. It came out in 96. And I had to give Stephen King some props in this. I thought the story was good. The actors that played it did very well. And, it's a story about greed, lust, and all the good things in life that you have to go to hell for. It's about a big fat lawyer, runs over a gypsy woman. Her father, who's an old man, curses him thinna. And he starts rotting away, turning skinny and skinny and skinny. He can't ever feel it. It's like it activated his avarice from the inside, made it an outside problem. He can't consume enough to ever get big. It's all, you got to watch the movie. I don't want to give away the ending because it's just worth watching, And moving on from that, Bram Stoker's Dracula. This came out in 1992. Had a lot of wonderful people in it. Mr. Ullman, for example, Gary Ullman. He's the guy that played Commissioner Gordon. I think I got his name right. But he played Dracula. He shaved his head for it. It was a wonderful part. A lot of the actors did good in this, but of course, the Keanu Reeves curse. He really dragged down the movie. There was a few other things that kind of... Because the movie would be higher if some of the acting just wasn't so horrible and just drags down the movie. It's like an anchor that drags it down. But I don't think that's Keanu's fault. I mean, he was miscast. I mean, obviously, when he's cast in a movie where it plays to his strengths, like John Wick, the movie's freaking awesome. I mean, let's be honest. John Wick's a great movie. I think he was severely miscast in that. Some of the other people too, but that's why it's so low on the list. Now, I'm going to move on to The Sixth Sense. Number 16. Now, people probably think that it should be higher. It's a standard. But once you see it once, that's pretty much it. There's not much to it but that. Like the first time I saw the movie, I kind of figured that he was a ghost, by the end of it, because of the way his wife wouldn't answer him, like little things like that. And if you haven't seen the movie, spoilers for everything. I tell you now, spoilers for all these movies that came out a long, long time ago in a decade far, far away where gas was $1 a gallon. Yeah, but Bruce Willis, he did a good job in it. It was a Shyamalan movie, and it was one of his better ones. But like I said, it loses its appeal over the years, personally. You can only watch something like that so many times before you're like, unless you're showing it to someone else. But by this point, it's like, Now, another one, this is kind of like a surprise one because I don't think people often put this on their list. But like I said, it's my damn show. And number 15 is The Frighters, 1996. Michael J. Fox. And damn, what can I say about this movie? It is like a twisted version of Ghostbusters. Michael J. Fox plays this fake detective that can actually see ghosts. Like the ghosts are his friends, and they help him con people. And he comes in with like a little fake seance, like ooh yeah, and gets rid of the ghosts. But the reason he can see ghosts is due to a traumatic event that happened to him with his wife, and he can see these ghosts, and all of a sudden a killer appears. Ghost killer that starts murdering people, and he gets blamed for it because he's the only one that can see it. It's a very interesting movie. It's like Ghostbusters. It's like a detective Ghostbusters movie. It's great. It's funny. It has a lot of moments where you're like, oh damn. And I know that it's supposed to look like it's shot in America, but it's shot in Australia. And the gloom gives it another atmosphere. The whole town, the way it's shot, really, really good. This is one of like Michael J. Fox's last movies before he started moving into television, and he was a great talent, and he played this movie really well. I highly recommend seeing it. Where else are you going to see a ghost judge hump a mummy? Spoilers. Alright, moving on. 1994's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I think this is one of those movies that kind of got forgotten over the years. It's a little over the top, yes. It's Very 90s. It's in kind of the image of Bram Stoker's Dracula and that big gothic appeal. But Robert De Niro, and I don't think too many people know this, plays Frankenstein. And the monster, Frankenstein's monster, I should say that. And damn, his performance is just... I think the movie should have got more credit than it deserved. The actors are interesting. You get caught up in it. It has a real life or death feel, and it feels like it expands on the old movie without shitting on it. You know, like too often they remake things or do things, and they try to like give nostalgia to it while crapping on it at the same time. This movie doesn't do that. You know, and it sticks a lot to the book. It's very interesting. I highly recommend seeing it if you got the time. And that's only number 14 on our list. Let's see what number 13 is. Sleepy Hollow. And this one came out in 1999. And this one starred Johnny Depp. It was a Tim Burton movie about the Headless Horseman. And I thought it was a good movie. Christopher Walken's the Headless Horseman. I mean, you can't lose when it's Christopher Walken is the bad guy. I mean, you know. And I thought it was good. Very dark. It had that Tim Burton look. And of course, this is before like Johnny Depp and Tim Burton began to like still had like, something really going before they kind of burnt out their, I guess, star power, you could say. Or like people have just got tired of them making the same kind of movie. And this one's not Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's darker, has some action, and the hero is kind of like a very smart man, but sort of a coward. It's very good to see the contrast, like the hero is not all brave. Liked the movie, thought it was really cool, recommend it. And we're moving on to number 12, 1995 7. Yes, I know, all the Kevin Spacey thing. I mean, like, what? The guy's an asshole. But Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt do a wonderful job in this movie. It would probably be higher up if it wasn't for the stigma of certain people. I thought it told a great story. And at this time, horror movies, we couldn't think of them as like dramas, you know, or like crime dramas. And this was a wonderful mix of a drama, a police drama, and a horror movie mixed all into one. And it just played wonderful. I remember being very popular at the time and still popular now. I could throw it in. You know that famous phrase, "What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box?" Usually it's something I unwrap. Check out my toy reviews. But, you know, good movie. Great movie, I think. Moving on our list. Clive Barker's The Candyman. 1992. And you're probably wondering why Clive Barker's property, The Hellraiser, on this, because by this time the movie sucked. And I'm not going to put them on my top 20, unless it was the worst movies, you know. Candyman is a great movie. Very unique story about a man that was a slave, falls in love with a white woman in the time of slavery. They cut off his hand. They put bees on him. They make him suffer. He becomes a ghost. He starts seeking revenge. I thought the stories were great. It went all the way up to part 3. It's very unique that he's a killer with bees. He has a hook hand. Has a very je ne sais quoi about him. Like a very... Where Freddy's very loud and, you know, bah, he has more of a silent kind of, you know, deep voice, you know, like, I am forever, you know, like, and it's just so worth watching. It's, the movie's kind of lost a little touch, you know, as sequels go, diminishing returns, but you don't believe diminishing returns, watch the Star Wars movies and you know what I'm talking about. But, you know, very good. It's a great story. And it'll make you think twice about going into your bathroom, turning off the lights, and saying, Candyman, Candyman, Candyman. Oh, got a little carried away there with a bloodlust. But anyways, moving on to number 10. And this is another movie that I feel doesn't get any credit. And since I feel that it doesn't get any credit, I'm going to give it the credit that I think it deserves. The Prophecy. With Christopher Walken. And oddly enough, Viggo Mortensen makes an appearance as the devil. This is about an angel named Gabriel who has been fighting the second war in heaven. He's turned his back on the humans, and it's about his descent into finding this soul that will help them storm heaven and kind of turn into another hell. So the devil's kind of actually working against him. It's an interesting movie, a little long on the tooth, tells a great story. Part 1, 2, and 3 are very cohesive, okay? There's a few things, with the other characters, but if you just look at Gabriel's or Christopher Walken's arc in it, it's interesting and very cool, And plus, it's Christopher Walken playing an angel. Gabriel, nonetheless. I guess he's the angel of death. He does cool things where he just makes people die or fall asleep. So worth the watch. The horror is kind of few and far between, but the storyline's interesting. I think that it's just one of those movies that, with Christopher Walken in it, is just all kinds of cool. It was like a horror movie drama. So like I said, the 90s kind of didn't know what it wanted to be. And everything kind of evolved from that. Movies like The Conjuring or funny movies. Like all these horror funny movies or these other things kind of evolved from this. Now, of course, we got to go and give credit to Wes Craven in Scream. Of course, that's number 9, 1996. You guys knew that it was going to be coming on the list. You can't have a horror 90s, best of the horror, without talking about that movie. It fundamentally changed the horror movies. It gave it that reality look. It was the trend for a long time. It still pops up in movies. The horror within the horror, I guess. And I liked the movie when it came out. I loved it. The rules of horror. I got a giggle out of that. I was always that person. There are rules to horror. I remember being that guy and sitting in the living room and giving a speech very much like that when I was in my teenage years. So I very much appreciate certain aspects of it. But the sequels got tired. Some of them were some of them were It was one of those movies you come back to. For me, that was a classic. It's a good movie if you've never seen it. I wouldn't recommend watching the television series first. Now, number 8 was a television movie, but 1990. And I don't care. My show. And what can I say? Tim Curry is Pennywise. He was just so freaking out there. You gotta love Tim Curry. Everything that Tim Curry does is just pure freaking gold. He's balls to the wall, insane, and he just goes out on this. There's a few good actors in this. I forget the man's name. He played John Boy in The Waltons, John Ritter. It told a very cohesive story. It was a TV movie, so they had to cut some of the blood out, and it paved the road for the new It movie that has been made recently. And I've seen that movie. It's the bomb. But you gotta love kind of the older one too. It's like comparing apples and oranges. It's like comparing two franchises, like Phantom Menace and the original Star Wars. Kids that grew up on the Phantom Menace, say they love that, and they think this is a little hokey. Other way around, vice versa. The new, so you got to kind of see where I'm standing on it. At that point, it was scary as hell, and it was really cool, and it was a great Stephen King movie. So Stephen King, you're in here twice. All right, moving on to number 7, Silence of the Lambs. Now this movie won a few awards, and they were so scared of the word horror movie because by this time the slasher films had kind of run their course. Horror movies were going down. They weren't really putting the money in the franchises anymore. And Silence of the Lambs was like this psychological thriller about a killer. Hannibal the Cannibal. Great movie. Anthony Hopkins steals the show. Although they made a previous version of it called Manhunter, which wasn't that bad. Actually, Manhunter was for the Red Dragon. I'm sorry. McFly. But Silence of the Lambs is kind of like part 2 of that. And Anthony Hopkins is just Hannibal. The way he talks, the way he plays off of Jodie Foster. I just liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti. It just doesn't get no better than that. He's just one of those villains that you just want to watch. And they made 3 movies with Anthony Hopkins playing Hannibal, so the proof's in the pudding. Number 6 is another fun one. Vampire movie from Dusk Till Dawn. And I just love this movie. I mean, Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, this guy's just good. I mean, they make fun stuff to watch. I mean, what can I say? I love watching shit blow up. About two brothers, two criminals that end up kidnapping his family. They end up going to this bar called the Titty Twister, and it ends up being a big vampire den. And just for the scene of watching Salma Hayek dance, wearing that snake, looking all evil and beautiful, and dancing to the music of Tito and the Tarantula, spinning, just pure evil in motion. Ooh, now that I would like with a nice Chianti, if you know what I'm saying. There's a lot of action in it, and it just keeps that, blow them up, get away with it, and the bad guys kind of become the good guys. It's just really cool to watch. George Clooney's in it. Quentin Tarantino plays his brother, and it's just worth giving a watch too if you just want a fun, blow 'em up vampire movie with a very beautiful woman dancing in it. Whew. Gives me the heebie-jeebies. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, speaking of heebie-jeebies, let's go to number 5. Arachnophobia. Arachnophobia, if you haven't seen it, it's about these spiders from Brazil. One gets transferred over. After he kills this guy, transferred in the coffin, meets with a small spider, and it becomes like all these other poisonous spiders. They start killing people in the small town. And I loved watching this movie as a kid. A fun movie. And John Goodman in this movie steals every scene as the exterminator. I'm just going to say this. And if you've seen this movie, you'll get this reference. Rock and roll. It's worth watching just for John Goodman's performance in it alone. It tells a pretty good story. Fair amount of kills in it. You get to see spiders do their thing. And anyone that has that insectophobia or afraid of bugs or anything, it's a perfect movie to bring out in the middle of the night. I guarantee you it'll scare the crap out of it. It's awesome. Alright. Now, we're going to be moving on to 1990s Tremors. Yeah, I said it, and it's high up here, because I love that damn movie. I'm a big Tremors fanatic. I've seen all the movies. I've seen the television series, and I saw the short-lived pseudo-television series with Kevin Bacon. I love the show. I think it was a fun movie. The chemistry between Val and Earl was great. Burt Gummer, the gunman. This was one of those movies that I watched a lot as a kid, and I still find myself watching now. That's why it's so high up there. Granted, some of the movies, like I said, diminishing returns for sequels. Some are good, some are not. But it's just the love for the series. It's the love for the characters, the world. And the television show, the short-lived one, was actually pretty good. It went on for like a season. It was kind of like the story between 2 and 3, I think, or 2 and 4, because 3 was a prequel. And it was interesting. It had Christopher Lloyd in it. It's worth the watch. I'm sorry that it got canceled. It had the guy that played the Walt's in-law, the cop. He's in it too. It's really fun, and I've often enjoyed that movie. And like I said, if you don't agree with me, my list. Number 3, 1993's Army of Darkness. Hell yes. For anyone that's ever heard my Freddy versus Jason versus Ash show, I love Ash Williams. That my boy, is a great man to have a beer with, great guy to kick back with, party animal. I highly recommend spending some time with Mr. Ash Williams. I love the movies. Army of Darkness was cool. Like I said, it was funny. It leaned more towards the comedy side, but I'm a big fan of Evil Dead. And if it wasn't for this movie kind of being a gateway, like I said, it kind of connects a lot of the other movies. Like I like how it kind of, in the comic books, it kind of connects this too. And they kind of touch on that in Ash versus Evil Dead, how he went through the portal. And, everybody knows the continuity in this is screwed because it went through 3 different movies. Part Evil Dead 1 went through one movie company. Evil Dead 2 went through one movie company. Army of Darkness went through one movie company. So, continuity is a bit of a bitch, but hey, Ash Williams, chainsaw hand, boomstick, hell to the king, baby. Yeah. Alright, number 2. Wes Craven's New Nightmare. That's right, Wes Craven's making a second appearance. I love Nightmare on Elm Street. I've always loved the movies. You watch my 80s show, Dream Warriors. I had to put Dream Warriors on there. That's one of my personal favorites. I love Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I love how he kind of took the idea of Scream and blew it up. Where it's something attacking this world. It's interesting because this movie came out in 1994 and Scream came out in 1995. So he was already playing with the notion of having horror visit the real world. And it's such a different spin on it. Robert Englund's performance is both Robert Englund and Freddy Krueger. Very different. Freddy's more vicious in this one, a little more vile, but still has that humor in it. They brought back Nancy, the original actress. It had a lot of cool winks to the movie in it. The original movie, I thought it was very cool. I thought it was a very interesting way for Wes Craven to kind of put his own spin on what's been going on, and it's really worth the watch. I know people talk a lot of crap about the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but Wes Craven's New Nightmare, worth the watch. Yes. And number 1, the doll, the main man, the man you don't mess with, Chucky. Charles Lee Ray, Bride of Chucky. I love that movie. I mean, damn, I've laughed my ass off so many times, and the violent scenes in that movie, just so cool. Even the voice actor that plays Chucky, he said that this was one of his favorite movies. The addition of Tiffany was good for him. It gave Chucky someone to play off of. And I know that they really dropped the ball with Seed of Chucky, but this is one of those movies where it had everything. It had good laughs, it had violence, it had a callback to the originals. You know, it had these little like fourth wall winks. You know, not necessarily breaks, but winks. You know, like the part where he says, "Yeah, you know, like if they made a movie about what happened to me, it would at least take 2 or 3 films to do it justice." You know, and I just love that. You know, and I thought it was a great movie. Of course, it had the world building where it had, you know, she's going for his body. There was Jason's mask, the glove, kind of connecting everything together. I thought that was really cool, and I enjoy this movie. I mean, I enjoy the Chucky movies. I think they're really cool. Like I said, Seed's kind of the one that, but I like Bride. I thought Bride was really cool. And if you just want a good time, like I said, like I often say about a lot of the movies I watch, you know, it's worth watching. And I have a few honorable mentions. Of course, Leprechaun, that I just recently did a show about. Gremlins 2, because it came out in 1990, and it's just a horror, comedy, sci-fi, and just so weird I have to mention it, so there. And Misery, another Stephen King movie. Very good movie. Kind of slow. That's why it's not in the top 20. And like I said before, this is my top 20 of the best movies that came out in the 1990s horror list. And I am the Comic Outlaw. And I will catch you on the flip side. Yeah. Don't turn off your lights tonight. Because I'm coming. I'm coming for you.